After our remarks from Mayor Giles and Congressman Biggs, there will be a question and answer period. We're most excited about that. You were likely given a 3x5 card on your way in to write a question on. If you didn't get one and you'd like one, raise your hand, and we have people here that can get one of those to you. Write one question, the one that's just burning most in your heart, and write your name and the city where you live, and hold that card until the Q&A period, and then we'll be collecting those and speaking to what's going to happen from there. So with that, we're going to proceed with introducing first our prayer, and we're going to invite Senior Pastor Ken Dutton to come forward and start this meeting most appropriately. Following that, we'll invite Sergeant Major D. Scott Fry, U.S. Marine Corps retired, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. We welcome you here tonight. Let's bow our heads and let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you, first of all, for this beautiful country that we live in, that we have the freedoms that we do to gather together in a gathering just like this and to share ideas. We may not have the same opinions on things, but I thank you, Father, that in our setting and in this country, we have the ability to work together. And I pray, Father, your blessing on this evening. And according to 2 Timothy in the Bible, in the 2nd chapter, it says that we are also to pray for those in governing positions and those who rule over us, so that there will be peace and dignity and honor in our land. So, Father, we do that. We pray for our governing officials from national levels to state levels to city levels and all aspects, that you would lead them, that you would guide them with wisdom and protect them and watch over them and over the people of this city, of this state, of this nation, of our world. So, Father, I pray that tonight everything will be done according to order and be done according to what Timothy said, in peace. So, Father, we give you this evening, and we ask your blessing on it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Sergeant Major.
Ladies and gentlemen,
now invite the Mesa High School Chamber of Singers to come forward and please us with the national anthem. Thank you. Wow, my heart's pounding. I don't know if that's from the song or from that resounding invitation in the pledge or from that invocation, but thank you to all of those that have started our meeting in such an appropriate way. We do have a few elected officials and other dignitaries that I'd like to take just a quick moment to recognize. Sally Harrison from the Mesa Chamber, our CEO from the Mesa Chamber. Mesa City Council members Jeremy Whitaker and Kevin Thompson. Welcome. Thank you for standing. Chandler City Council, Gilbert Town Council member Eddie Cook and Bridget Peterson. Welcome. Emelina Turley from the Queen Creek Town Council. Gail Griffin, State Senator Majority Whip. And Kelly Ward, former State Senator. And if we missed you, we're sorry. We're glad you're here. Okay. As the program moves, we're excited now to introduce Mayor Giles. I have this long bio that I could read because of all the work and the accomplishments he's had, but I'd like to just hit a few highlights. First elected as the 40th Mayor of Mesa in 2014 and re-elected again in 2016. He's been a vibrant part of a growing economy here in Mesa, adding thousands of new jobs and bringing new employers like Apple and Textron Aviation, and over $1.5 billion in new capital investment in this community. That's pretty incredible. How about a round of applause for that? It's all about the jobs. He's bringing renewed focus and attention to Mesa's downtown. In the 2016 State of the City, he announced the start of a discussion with Arizona State University about expanding its presence in the heart of Mesa and downtown, which is an effort that is ongoing. So many other things that he's done. He's a lawyer by trade, but those of you that know him know that he is a true public servant at heart. He loves people. He's a servant leader, and we're delighted that he could be here tonight. And with that, please a round of applause as we welcome Mayor Giles.
Thank you, Denny. You know, actually, we'd all be well served if we let Denny talk for a few minutes, if not longer, tonight. Denny, as you know, is the chairman of the County Board of Supervisors, has a long history of serving our community, and I'm grateful to Denny for your service, Denny. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to Congressman Biggs for the invitation to join with you tonight and to give you an update on how things are going in Mesa, Arizona. I just have a few minutes to do that, so I'll just kind of run through from some things because I think we're all looking forward to the question and answer period here tonight, and I'm anxious to hear more from you than perhaps what I might have to say. I sometimes joke that what people know about me is that I'm a lawyer and a politician, and what that has created in me and is a highly developed ability to be extremely boring. So it's important that in order for this to be not painful for everyone in the room, that you ask a lot of questions rather than just rely on me to give you a monologue. And I had to say thank you to Pastor Dutton for letting us be in this great facility today. I've had the privilege of coming and worshiping here a few times with Pastor Dutton, and I have to put in a plug. This Sunday is Easter, all right? If you don't have plans, 10 o'clock, Pastor Dutton, is that right? I think the service is 10 o'clock on Sunday. That's right. Really, get here early if you want to see. Pastor Dutton, before he was a pastor, was a musical pastor, and he and his wife and his daughter, if you've ever heard them sing together, it's something you're never going to forget. So I promise you, if you need a place to worship on Sunday, please come and see Pastor Dutton and Without Walls Church. They do a lot in our community. Without Walls, in addition to being a church, is a very important force in our community. They are very involved in serving the poor. They have a large and thriving food pantry. Manna Food Bank is operated by Without Walls Church, so they don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk in our community. So I'm grateful to Pastor Dutton and his church for all the good work they do. Okay, having said that, let's now talk a little bit about the City of Mesa. The City of Mesa is doing very well. As you know, Mesa has a history of being a fast-growing community. I had the privilege of growing up in Mesa, and I remember as a young child hearing how fast we were growing. And And that was true when I was a child, and from the end of World War II right up until really the start of the downturn, 28 years or so ago, Mesa had a history of doubling in size every 10 years. So we literally were one of the fastest growing communities in the country. That kind of leveled off for a while, given the economic downturn, but we are back now in that fast-paced growth mode. I heard yesterday that in the month of March, Mesa issued more building permits than the city of Phoenix did. And the month previous to that, we finished second to Phoenix by one building permit. So Mesa is a third the size of Phoenix, but as you can tell, we are very much back in that fast-paced mode of building houses, building businesses, trying to keep pace with all the pressures that come with growth. And that's great. I think that shows that we're a healthy community. That means that we are attractive to people. There's lots of things going on in Mesa to be very proud of. And so growth is a good thing. It does create some pressures on city government for us to be able to keep pace and to provide the services that we all are anxious to have. But we're up to the challenge and we're anxious to do that. Talking a little bit, I presume that at least a good portion of the crowd here is from Congressman Biggs' district. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to concentrate a little bit on the parts of Mesa that Congressman Biggs represents. Particularly out in the southeast part of Mesa, the Gateway Airport area. Councilmember Thompson is here that represents that part of our city. That is undergoing that's where a lot of the growth that I just described earlier is occurring. For the last several years, the story that you hear most often associated with growth in Mesa and economic development is the story of Apple coming to Mesa. That's been, just as we had hoped and thought, that's been a big boon to the economy in that part of Mesa. And that Apple, as you might know, is located on the corner of Signal Butte and Elliott. Elliott Road is now becoming quite a hotbed of economic activity, and you're going to, over the next few months, see additional announcements similar to that of Apple coming to Mesa. Other household names in the tech industry located in Mesa. The same is true at the Gateway Airport itself. Gateway Airport is doing very well. Next week, we'll be announcing the results of a request for proposal to develop 300 acres adjacent to the airport, on the airport facility. And that will be international news. So keep your eye on the newspaper for next week. That part of town, like I say, is just growing like crazy. All of the great things, I should mention Eastmark is the fastest growing community in the state of Arizona. That is right adjacent to the Gateway Airport area. For those of you that are old timers, remember Eastmark used to be the 5,000-acre desert General Motors proving grounds. The other half of that property is now we're about to break ground there, a development called Cadence. So you're going to continue to see a lot of housing development, a lot of commercial development in that part of town. Equally as busy is the Falcon Field area, which is part of Congressman's district. There are great retail that has been announced at Higley and the 202 freeway. The city is developing a high-tech park adjacent to the airport as well. I see Councilmember Whitaker is here. He'd probably get mad at me if I didn't talk a little bit about Dana Park, how well it's doing. The owners of Dana Park recently announced a $100 million expansion of that facility. So the economy is doing well in Mesa. There's other parts of town that we could talk about, but it might be less interesting to those of you who don't live there. So I'm looking forward to your questions. Isn't it wonderful that we live in the United States of America and we have free speech? This is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to a lively exchange and to answering any questions or complaints you might have about the city of Mesa. But thank you very much for your participation and for being here tonight. I also need to, I think it's my task now to introduce Congressman Biggs. We are very proud of and honored to be represented by Congressman Biggs. He is a lifelong Arizonan. He's been educated here, received his law degree from the University of Arizona, and has served, but prior to his service in the Congress, was obviously a very prominent member of our legislature, including service as the president of the Arizona Senate. He has represented Mesa for several years, along with other parts of the valley. And during that period of time, he's been a great advocate for us. The State Route 24, the highway that is now connecting all of the growth that's going on in that part of Mesa, was something that Congressman Biggs was very important in having that happen. As our congressman, he continues to work closely with Mesa on a lot of the issues, the federal issues that we have, including helping us with the FAA out at Gateway Airport. So he's been a great partner for our city, and it's my pleasure to introduce Congressman Andy Biggs.
Thank you, Mayor Giles. It's a delight to be here with Mayor Giles. It's a delight to be here with all of you tonight. Everybody. I'm glad that we can have this town hall tonight. I want to thank, in particular, again, the Church Without Walls, Pastor Dutton and Pastor Paul and their staff have done a marvelous job. The Mesa Police Department has done a tremendous job helping put this thing together, put the logistics. Supervisor Denny Barney, a peerless supervisor. We're glad to have him here moderating tonight, and all of the elected officials that are here. But I think I've got everybody. So Sergeant Fry, Major Sergeant Fry, glad to have him here, and also the Mesa High singers. They were awesome. I heard them. Yeah, let's give them another round of applause. I was in a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout Court of Honor a number of weeks back, and they sang, and I said, my goodness, when we do this town hall, we need to have them come sing, and so they did a great job. So I want to just real quick give you a report of some of the things that I've done in Congress, and I'd like to give, if there's time in the 7 minutes, I want to give you a quick timeline of what I think are some of the issues that are coming up, and then look forward to answering questions in the Q&A session. So when I was running, I campaigned consistently on saying I'm going to introduce 6 pieces of legislation, and I have done that. I've introduced all 6 pieces of those legislation. Some of them are actually moving. Some of them are taking a little bit longer. For instance, my bill that says Congress should not get paid unless it produces a budget, I'm having a little trouble getting that one to move. But I introduced that piece. I introduced a piece of legislation that said that Congress should not be allowed to have any exemptions from Obamacare, because I think whatever laws Congress passes, we should live by. So, as you might guess, that one's having a little trouble moving too. But that's the idea is to get this provide at least some kind of basis for people to recognize that. The first bill that passed out of Congress this year was the REINS Act. And what that was is that dealt with the regulatory environment that is strangling our economy and harming our freedoms. And so we passed that out of the House of Representatives. It's sitting in the Senate now. Within just a few hours of being sworn in, I propounded a couple of amendments to go on that bill. Those amendments didn't make it on, but the bill ended up passing out of the House, and so it's in the Senate. So that's 3 of the bills. Additional bill is I introduced legislation reducing the federal regulatory mandates on education. I think that is best left to the states, and I think it's best left to the states. And in addition, in that bill, I also said Title I money, which comes now with mandates that actually cost more than the feds give, those mandates should go away, but the funding should go to the states, and the states should be able to use that for disadvantaged children, because that's what Title I is intended for. The 5th bill was grants law. As you know, we've had a series of things happen in this country where criminally violent illegal aliens have been released onto our streets and committed additional crimes. My bill said that you hold on to them, you don't release them, because in order to qualify, you're convicted of an offense that's listed. We should not release those back onto our streets. We keep them in custody until they are repatriated from our country. That bill has some interest. It's not moving as fast as I would like, but it has some interest in the Congress. The 6th bill, the bill that I'm surprised has the most interest, is to split the 9th Circuit. For the life of me, I don't understand how people can support a circuit court that runs from the Arctic Circle to the equator, where litigants in the 9th Circuit are treated differently than any other circuit court. You cannot get an en banc hearing, which is a panel review. You can't get a true en banc panel review in the Ninth Circuit like you get in every other circuit. And you want to know what? Even people within the Ninth Circuit in California, which drives the Ninth Circuit, which, by the way, is almost 3 times as busy as any other circuit court, that many of them would like to get out of the Ninth Circuit because you've got delays, which is an impediment to due process. We've had a hearing on that in Congress. It was a lively hearing, and we'll see how it goes. There are 4 bills, 3 bills besides mine, 4 total, that are pending on that issue. One from Senator Jeff Flake, one from a senator in Montana, and one from a congressman in Idaho. We'll see how that goes. But I'm pretty sincere on that. I think that's important for us. I serve on 2 committees and 4 subcommittees. I serve on the Judiciary Committee. And there are a multitude of subcommittees. I serve on 2 of them. One is the Borders and Border Security and Immigration Subcommittee. Another one is Courts, Intellectual Property, and the Internet. Those 2 subcommittees I serve on in the Judiciary Committee. In the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, I serve also on 2 subcommittees there. I'm the chairman of the Environment Subcommittee, and I'm also on the Space Subcommittee. So that gives you an idea of some of the committee work that I've got going. I wanted to give you the timeline real quick. I'm getting the push on time, so I'll go real quick. What we have done is we passed a budget right off. We've been working on the Obamacare repeal, as promised. There's not a Republican who ran who did not promise to repeal Obamacare. There's not one that did. So that would be the second thing we've been doing. When we get back from the work recess, we will be dealing with the continuing resolution, which if you don't pass that, then government can't continue. Because in December, the previous Congress passed a continuing resolution for 4 months, and that means by the end of April, we have to pass another continuing resolution or government would shut down. The next thing that we'll be doing is dealing with the debt ceiling, because once you continue funding, then since we don't have enough money, and we have a $20 trillion debt, $20 trillion debt, it will go higher. Then once that happens, then we'll pass another budget. And then once that budget happens, then there'll be tax reform. And that gives you a kind of idea on the agenda of the main focus of bills through August. And then there'll be more. In the fall, we're talking about Dodd-Frank repeal. And you'll also see some transportation and infrastructure. So these are things that you'll be seeing going forward. And so my time is up. I just want to close by saying I appreciate all of you being here tonight, and looking forward to it.
Here we go. All right. There I am. I'm smiling because I can see it's going to be a spirited debate this evening. And that's why we live in this great country. So let me reiterate the ground rules. Before I do that, though, I have just one point of personal privilege. Eddie Farnsworth, would you wave back there? One of my favorite guys on the planet didn't make it out of the paper. Whether you like him or not, you always know where he stands, and he's standing right in the back. So, thank you, Eddie, for being here. All right. Once again, thank you to Church Without Walls for letting us come into their house of worship today. Let's remember that we are in a church. That doesn't mean we can't disagree and disagree with energy, but we would ask that you hold your outbursts and be respectful so that the prosecutor... Would you settle down? We're going to get there. Thank you. Have you written your question down? Okay, just settle down and we're going to get there, all right? Okay. We're going to ask that you hold the outburst just so we can keep everything moving along. We'll have people circulating for the questions. Now, it's going to be impossible that we get to everyone's questions tonight, but we're going to do the best that we can. So, if you'll keep your applause or whatever it is that you would like to signal, let's try to minimize that so that the congressman and the mayor can answer the questions that you're going to put forward. We're going to cover a variety of topics tonight. Okay, if you'll hold up your facilitator cards when we get into this Q&A here in just 1 minute, we'll ask you to step to the aisle. And with that, we've got 4 facilitators in the audience. They're going to come to you with the mic, and they'll tell you when it's time to start speaking. They're going to hold the mic for you. If you think this is your moment to sing out loud and have your first moment of karaoke, this is not it. Ask the question, and then we'll get an answer. Don't use this as your chance to have a little diatribe or whatever it is that you've been wanting to do. So they're going to ask. You're going to ask. They're going to answer. Again, we ask that you certainly don't have to agree on everything, but that you don't be disagreeable in your disagreement. Tonight's about good quality civil discourse. So with that, let me just introduce our facilitators in the audience. Sherry Pierce, right here in the middle. Janet Bosley, we see right here in the middle. Rudy Cota, where you here? Rudy's over here. And over here we should have Kathy Pierce. Great. So with that, we'll start with you, Sherry.
First question is right here.
Thank you, Congressman Biggs, for having all of this. My name is Well, I live in Mesa. My question is, what are your thoughts on cutting funding for community-based support organizations and why?
Thank you for the question. Thanks for being here. You're asking a very generic, broad question about any community-based organization. And right now, the only issue that I would just take direct aim at that question by saying, the question I ask is the funding constitutional? Number 2, can we afford it? Number 3, satisfying both of those, then is it an appropriate function for us to be doing? That's how I address that question. And so there may be some that I would say probably should go away, and maybe some that I would say should stay.
We have a question over here.
Hello, my name is Dan. I'm in Gilbert. Thanks for having me.
Dan, could you speak up just a tiny bit? Thank you.
My name is Dan. I'm from Gilbert, and I appreciate you having this meeting tonight. My question to you, Congressman Biggs, is will you move to impeach Donald Trump if he is found to have colluded with the Russians during the election?
So thank you, Dan, for being here. Thank you for the question. As a hypothetical question, so let me just tell you what's going on with the investigation. There is an investigation going in the House Intelligence Committee. There's an investigation going on in the Senate Intelligence Committee. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies continue their investigations, and the Judiciary Committee, of which I sit on, everyone signed a letter encouraging that investigation to continue and give us the results. I don't tend to comment on investigations as they're going, but I will just tell you the standard constitutionally is high crimes and misdemeanors. And until I see something proving that, then I would say, no, I won't impeach. If I see something, then we'll talk. We'll talk at that point.
Rudy, come over here, Rudy.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for your time, Congressman Biggs. My name is Catherine, and I'm from Gilbert, Arizona. My question this evening is, what is your current position, as well as President Trump's, regarding the proposal of the 20% import tax on goods manufactured in Mexico, and has consideration been given to the impact not only to the Mexican businesses, but as well as the effect on Americans, consumers, shoppers, and businesses and shippers such as UPS and FedEx?
Thanks for that question. Thank you for being here also. What we're talking about is the border adjustable tax. And just real quick explain it, because she got it right, and it is the issue that is most contested of people who are considering the tax reform package that has not formally been addressed. And what that would be is a 20% tax across the board for all imports into the United States. The way I look at that is that has the potential of all kinds of unintended consequences. So for instance, if you're a restaurateur and you import pasta, cheese, tomatoes from Italy, imagine if there's a tax of 20% increase on that. That would increase your cost 20%, and that would have dramatic impact on your ability to do business. All of us, we've gotten used to the very idea of out-of-season fruits and vegetables coming to us from other countries. Imagine if those all went up 20% in cost. We wouldn't like that. Very few of us are wearing clothes that are 100% made in the United States. Almost impossible to do. I don't know of anybody who drives a car that's 100% made in the United States. The cost of all those has the potential of going up very high. I've encouraged those who are working on this tax reform plan, and I continue to advocate, and if you really are trying to get to this idea of bringing manufacturing back to the United States, which is the purpose of this, they want to bring supply chains back to the United States. My question to them is, why don't you work this with a scalpel instead of a meat cleaver approach? And so I will just tell you that of all the tax proposals I've heard, this is the one that's the most controversial. I have not seen anything in writing on it, although I've been briefed on it about a half a dozen times. And as they get closer to it, that's why I gave the timeline today, so you could kind of see where the timeline is. I know that the Ways and Means Committee is working on it, and at some point they're going to flash it to us and the public so we can all see. But that is the area that I struggle the most with, is the border adjustable tax.
Thank you. Kathy, and just make sure to hold the mic real close so that the audience can hear the question. Thank you.
Hi, my name is I'm from Mesa, Arizona. Washington is full of gridlock and party infighting. What are you doing to change this?
Thank you very much. One thing that the freshman class did, we had 55 incoming freshmen. We all signed a letter expressing our willingness to work with each other in a collegial fashion and not devolve into personalities, but to keep focused on issues and policy. I think that's number one. Number two, I did not mention my right to try bill, I don't think. My right to try bill is a bipartisan bill. I'm sponsoring it. I have a co-sponsor from Pennsylvania. In the Senate, Ron Johnson is running a similar bill. I'm working with Democrats across the aisle who are coming on. It's a bipartisan bill. Additionally, I'm working with members of our delegation across the aisle as we write letters regarding appropriations and regarding issues dealing with our state. So those are a few things that I'm going to personally reach across the aisle. And I'm pleased to say that my relationship with people like Kirsten Sinema, Tom O'Halloran remain good and solid and open. I had the pleasure of talking with Congressman Raul Grijalva periodically. Usually in an elevator, we get stuck in an elevator going together, so we talk about issues and stuff. But the point is, there may be an appearance of gridlock, and quite frankly, that isn't always a bad thing. But the reality is, I am working across the aisle where I can.
Thank you. Hey, do we have a question from the facilitators? We have a question from Mayor Giles, so we'll give the congressman a moment to take a sip of water. Just even a softball is fine. Do we see some hands here from Mayor Giles? No? Just a pretty face. He really is. Okay. All right. Back to you.
We got one here.
My name is and I live in Mesa, and I'm also working with the ACLU on its Freedom Cities project. And I know that they have been in touch with your offices numerous times trying to arrange a meeting between you and the police department to discuss the Freedom Cities proposal. No response from your offices. Why haven't we heard back from you? with us.
Oh, I'm willing to meet with you. I'm willing to meet with you. Here's the deal that you need to realize. There are 700,000 and 750,000.
Sorry, that question was for Mayor Giles.
I'm willing to meet with you anyway, so.
I like his answer. He'll meet with you anytime you like.
Hey,
Thank you very much,
Janet, could we ask that question again and make sure that, we're having a hard time hearing her, so we apologize, but ma'am, if you'd please ask that question again for Mayor Giles, he'd be delighted to volunteer the congressman.
I would like an easier question. Could we? Okay.
I'm working in affiliation with the ACLU, and they have a national program called Freedom Cities. And we have approached the city of Mesa, not me personally, but some other people that we work with, trying to set up a meeting with your office and with the police department to discuss the ACLU's Freedom Cities proposals.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to meet with you. Ian, will you raise your hand, please? That's my staff right there. If you wouldn't mind, just go over there and we'll schedule an appointment. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Wow, if they were all that easy. Okay, do we have another question for the congressman? Are you right here? Question for the congressman. Okay, go ahead. Kathy, please.
My name is TJ. Thank you for motivating me and hundreds of your constituents to start activating. My question is, why was the first piece of legislation that you decided to sponsor the repeal of the decades-old ban on switchblade knives?
Thank you. So I introduced the bill that's called COPA, Knife Owners Protection Act. It follows hand in glove the Gun Owners Protection Act that we have. And what it does is it provides reciprocity across state lines. So let me give you an example. This is a real story. A guy's traveling from a place where he can have this type of knife legally. He flew into New Jersey. Bag's never in his hands. He's there to switch planes and go forward. They discover that knife in his bag. He is out of his control. But because New Jersey has a strict ban on it, the guy has the privilege of being charged and convicted of that. That's what we're trying to prevent. And that's why that was my first bill.
All right. Sherry, do you have a question for the congressman?
I do. Hello. I'm a physician currently living and working in your constituency. Sorry. My question or my plea is for you to support the bill, which is called as a HR 392, which supports highly skilled immigration.
What was the bill number?
HR 392.
HR 392.
High skilled immigration, highly skilled immigration.
Oh, okay.
So
Legal immigration for high skilled workers.
Yes. The reason I'm asking for your support is I'm a physician and I'm employed with Banner Health, but with the way and the current pace of the immigration, I might be dead by the time I get my green card. So I request you to please help us in this regard.
Yeah, so that is it's a very real issue. And so here's my response to that is people who want to legally immigrate here, we have placed them as a disadvantage vis-a-vis people who illegally come into our country. And that is wrong. And so we need to make sure that we have the resources to process quickly those who want to be here legally and meet our requirements. And that's where we are. That bill, I've looked at that bill. I need to look at it some more. I haven't made a decision on where I'm going to be, but I have read the bill. I'll read it again.
Thank you for the great questions. We're going to come back here to Rudy in the back. If you could make sure that mic is closed. Thank you, Rudy.
Hey, my name is Diane, and I'm from Chandler. I would like to know about, well, with Obamacare, it requires doctors to put our medical records online. That I found out several years ago, and I don't know if it's that part of the bill has gone into complete effect yet. I would like to know, can you strive to have them made private again between doctors and patients only?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the reality is, I just want to say this because I don't know that, but I will say that I do believe that one of the great privileges that we've always had in this country is that patient, physician privilege, and that we need to keep that sacrosanct. And that's wherever you are in Obamacare, that should be held sacrosanct.
All right. Another question for the Congress. We're going to ask you to keep one on deck for the mayor. Let's take one more for the congressman.
We got one here.
Okay, Janet, thank you.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Gilbert. My question has to do with the Affordable Care Act. Okay. My question is about the Affordable Care Act. I have my son and daughter both have type 1 diabetes, and they I'm warming up here. They have type 1 diabetes, so they have high medical costs. And I'm worried about repealing of the Affordable Care Act because I think we would lose all the protections that were afforded in that act. And I'm particularly worried that my son is still in grad school and he wants to start a business when he gets done. And I'm afraid if the Affordable Care Act is repealed, he might be relegated to one of the high-risk pools, which Republicans seem so fond of. The high-risk pools have not been, I mean, they've failed in the past. Less than 1% of the people have actually been able to afford the high deductibles and out of cost, or the high premiums. So my question is, and also, it only covered about 53% of the claims. So they were not a success, and they $10 billion that you want the federal funding for covering to give to the states to cover these high-risk pools is not going to be nearly enough. It wasn't enough before. I'm warming up here. So my question is, where will the state of Arizona get their funding to when the federal funds are depleted or when they're not enough? Where will the state of Arizona get their funds? And are you going to do anything to fight to lower prescription drug costs, which is adding to the cost of healthcare in this country?
Okay, thank you. So that was a compound question that requires me to take on several issues. So I'll take on a couple issues first.
Congressman, I'm going to sit down then.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Tim. Thank you. So when we talk about the high-risk pools that you say have failed, those were embedded in Obamacare. And yes, they are embedded in Obamacare. Yes. Oddly enough, having read it, I know for certain, it is embedded in Obamacare. But it has not been used very much. That is the fact. And so when you say it hasn't been successful, for many reasons, maybe that's true. Where we have seen high-risk pools that have been effective are state models. Maine is an example. They call theirs an invisible high-risk pool. What they do is every policy is hit with a premium, an additional premium which goes to fund high-risk people. One of the things that drives premiums to go up so that where an additional so many millions can come on one end and push others off at the other is because of the high cost of premiums. And that's part of our problem that you correctly cited. So what do you do about that? The idea is you share the risk. You share the risk. That's what insurance does. It shares the risk. And so the idea would be, and this is not my idea, this is an idea that is floating in Congress right now, is that you would take money that's already allocated, that is in the bill that's being proposed of $100 billion as a state stabilization fund. You would take $15 billion of that and that would be used to help fund these high-risk pools. There are many actuaries that say actually that would work. There are many actuaries that say that. But leave that aside, that's not my idea, that's Congress's idea. Your next question had to do with pharmaceuticals. One of the things that drives pharmaceuticals up deals with intellectual property rights. And I'm fortunate to be sitting on the intellectual property rights subcommittee of the judiciary where we are trying to take up that issue. I don't know where it'll go, but we are trying to address that issue because when I talk to health insurance companies, which by the way, we only have one in this state that would write these policies. One. If you live in eastern half of Tennessee, you don't have anybody. Most states right now have one. They have one. So we're working on finding ways to make pharmaceuticals more cost effective. And that's really what we're looking at. And I think a lot of it is derived from the intellectual property side of things.
Thank you. The Congressman didn't mention his work in the regulatory space. Another component is the FDA and the amount of time that it takes to bring these life-saving drugs to the market. And that's something that I know that he's working on as well. So do we have a question for the mayor over here? Great. Mayor Giles.
Hi, my name is Laura Kaifong, and my question is, what are you doing to bring entertainment, restaurants, and businesses to downtown, similar to what we see going on in Gilbert, Chandler, Tempe, and pretty much any other East Valley city?
Great, thank you. The question is, what are we doing to energize our downtown and have more entertainment venues? To begin with, I think it's important, Mesa kind of gets a bad rap for not having great places to eat downtown, which is entirely wrong. I would love to take people on a food tour of downtown Mesa and show you some really great restaurants. Let's start Blue Dolby Grill, Republic Empanada, Mangoes, Jalapeno Blocks, El Banayo. We could spend, a good couple of weeks touring all the great restaurants in downtown Mesa and not, apparently you disagree with me, but okay. Well, Worth Takeaway was named one of the top 100 restaurants in the United States of America by Yelp just a couple of weeks ago. So there is a lot of good dining in downtown Mesa. Now, do we want more? Yes, we do. I am excited about the fact that I grew up in downtown Mesa, frankly. I'm just a block away. And so it's a personal project of mine to see a rejuvenation of our downtown. Thankfully, we have the light rail. It's been just a tremendous boon. I have to admit, a couple of decades ago, I was sitting in my office in the city council building one time, and I looked out the window and I saw a lame dog walk across Main Street with absolutely no threat of being hit by any vehicle. And I realized that we had some problems perhaps in our downtown. Since that time, we've added a $100 million performing arts center. We've now added light rail. We are creating a lot of interest. Property values in downtown Mesa have soared. I am still very interested in negotiating with the ASU to bring an ASU presence to our downtown. That will incentivize and attract a lot of other residential and commercial development. You may be familiar with the old Brown & Brown Chevrolet. That's a square block of our city mile, our city downtown. That traditionally has been a huge source of revenue, sales tax revenue for the city of Mesa. So the bad news was they've left downtown. The good news is they've left downtown, and we now have an entire square block of property that we can develop. The person who bought that property and is developing it is Mr. John Graham. If you've driven by Tempe Town Lake and noticed the 2 million square feet of office space that's been developed there, that is Mr. John Graham. He's one of the, I put him as probably one of the top developers in the state. So there's going to be a lot of great announcements in the short term with regard to ASU, with regard to additional entertainment venues, including a lot of housing. One thing that we need in downtown Mesa is people. So we've got currently 3 housing projects that are in current stages of development between Country Club and Mesa Drive. There's another 22 acres of city property just off of the light rail that is going to come online as residential. So it's a chicken and egg thing. Do people bring restaurants or restaurants bring people? But we're just going to do both and bring chicken and eggs to downtown Mesa. Hopefully that will be a good dinner for you, and we'd invite you to come back and give us another shot.
Thank you for that question. Energizing. Okay, we've got a few minutes left. We're gonna go rapid fire here. We're gonna ask the question. We're gonna keep the answers to 45 seconds if possible. That's a challenge, I know, but let's go rapid fire to you, Sherry.
Hi, Congressman from Gilbert. I'd like you to explain why you voted to approve a bill that allows ISPs, Internet Service Providers, to sell your personal information and browsing history for a profit. I'd be really interested if you could take a straw poll here in the room and see if anyone is in favor of that. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Thanks for the question. Let me explain and clear up some misconceptions. This may take longer than 45 seconds. I'm a big believer that when the federal government starts regulating and they look into things like the internet, they start botching it up. And I think that's the way government works. And in this particular instance, this rule that you're relying on, that all of you are relying on, never had even gone into effect yet. You might not even be aware of that. It had not even gone into effect yet. Number one and number two, it only applied to 3 ISPs, and every one of them responded to the marketplace before we ever took that bill up and committed that they were not going to participate in that activity anymore. And I believe that the marketplace will rule, and that's what happened in this instance. And that's it for me. I go with the marketplace. I prefer the marketplace environment over government almost every time.
We like the energy. All right, let's come over to you, Kathy.
My name is Christine, and I live in Gilbert. With the failed weak health care bill that Speaker Ryan proposed now being set aside, is there any hope that we can actually repeal and replace Obamacare, truly defund Planned Parenthood, and because I did read the bill, and it only defunded for 1 year, and finally relieve our families from the burdens of the Affordable Care Act regulations.
Thank you. Thank you. The reality is they're trying to stir revive the Speaker's bill. They're trying to revive that bill right now. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if shortly after I get back, if they had managed to get enough votes to pass that bill. I'm not a supporter of that bill. I do not support that bill. That works. We've gone so far around the circle, we end up meeting back together where none of us like that bill. But I don't like the bill because it does a number of things. It does not keep a promise that we made to repeal. It keeps, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, it doesn't fully replace Obamacare. Repeal it. What it does is it leaves the framework in place. Those of you who like Obamacare, this is your best alternative to keep some remnant of Obamacare. Why? Why? Because the bill that's there does not repeal Obamacare, repeal some of the taxes and a few of the mandates. It has a 1-year defund of Planned Parenthood. The second phase of that is relying on a bureaucrat, who I happen to like the bureaucrat, he's a good guy, but he's going to come and flip off switches on regulations. That means that if another administration comes on, they can just come in and flip those switches back out. That's why I don't support the bill. And the other thing is when you start talking about the drivers, what will drive premiums down and allow people to be able to afford health insurance again, that's in what's considered a third phase. And that's for things like associations you can form associations to buy insurance. You can sell and buy health insurance across state lines. Those types of things. That's odd you boo that, no regardless of what side you're on. But the reality is that's in a third set of bills. Those bills will come later on, and when those bills come, They will require 60 votes in the United States Senate to pass, and I do not believe that those would ever get there. So you would have this odd conglomeration where you've done some things, you haven't done enough, and premiums, I believe, and other people will actually agree, will drive those premiums up higher, and that's a bad outcome for everybody in this room.
All right, thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. Rudy, let's come to you in the back.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm from Chandler, Arizona, and my question is on healthcare reform again. I'm asking as a sister and a partner to people with chronic illness. So they have thousands of dollars of medication they have to get every month. What's your stance on lifetime caps and the mandating that they be removed?
Right now, the lifetime cap issue is that's being considered, and it's being debated back and forth in this bill that the previous questioner asked about. That has not been resolved, and we don't, the devil's in the details on what they're talking about. I'm not necessarily sure I support lifetime caps, but what you're talking about is dealing with that special risk pool over here, which is going to be treated different than anybody else. And that is, that's where you get into the question of lifetime caps. I'm going to repeat what I said over here. Lifetime caps are going to be, that's where the big part of the discussion is right now, dealing with the high-risk pool.
All right, do we have one last question here? All right, Janet. Is this for the congressman or for the mayor?
This is for the congressman.
All right, you just stay seated. All right.
So you and Chairman Lamar Smith held a hearing on climate change at the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee last week. You both openly questioned the methodology of studies conducted by climatologists regarding global warming. My question to you is, do you believe in climate change and it being man-made? And if not, please explain why we should believe you, a politician, instead of the 97% of climatologists. Why we should believe you, a politician, instead of the 97% of climatologists around the world.
Great question, fair question. That's a great question and a fair question. Because most of the people, that hearing was about the scientific method. That's what that hearing was about. That hearing was about the scientific method. And what we're talking about is specifically East Anglia. And what did they do in East Anglia? They manipulated data. They manipulated data.
Answer the question.
So when you manipulate data, you're outside the operation of the scientific method. That's really what we're talking about, and we want to see. So when we had Michael Mann there, the guy who founded the hockey stick, who has been debunked, well, Michael Mann, he did a lot like what you're doing. He never had answered the question about Dr. Mann. Why are people, Dr. Mann, why do you insist, Dr. Mann, why do you insist that anybody who disagrees with you must be shouted down? And that is exactly why I look at climatologists. I've read stuff from a lot of including from climatologists who agree with Dr. Mann and those who disagree. And I think that what they say is actually valid, and it's something that maybe you should look at as well, because
97%!
Let me just finish. Yes. Let me just finish. You asked a compound question and I'm answering it. I'm getting to the point. But it's hard to get to the point because you want to shout me down. So I'm trying to get to the point. There are credible scientists who say climate change exists, we aren't sure why. There are credible scientists who say that. Additionally, there are additional credible scientists who say that they don't buy into it other than a cyclical climate change. These are credible, tenured professors who have produced peer-reviewed articles. And part of the reason you have science and you deal with the scientific method is because that is exactly how the science is developed. So I question, and I want to learn, and I continue to learn. Oddly enough, the same attitude you take is the exact same attitude that Einstein faced over physics, the theory of relativity. Read any of his stuff, read what happened to him. That's exactly what happened to him. They shouted him down until he was able to demonstrate. And that's what we're looking for. So, with that, I smile, I say thanks for being here. I'm glad you were here. I love all of you. And I'm grateful to have you here. So thanks for being here. And we'll do another town hall. We'll do another town hall soon. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we thank you for being here. We ask you to drive safely. We also, again, express our gratitude to the Church Without Walls for hosting. And with that,